when you look at the gifted education program in the US, I think it's over 2.5 to 3 decades they have this program. It is very mature. They have huge amounts of research being done in the area. They have debates around this area. And in fact, I think the current research trend shows that children show giftedness as young as when they are 1 month. So they are now trying to understand how their neurons are wired, to understand how these children think very differently. And so the argument that we have to identify these children young is very strong. And I would think it's extremely strong for India, because with this high inequality that we have in the socio-economic status, our school comes with the next level of inequality. All of us are teachers of schools, and all of us know that there are different kinds of schools to which different kinds of children go to. So you bring the second level of inequality. So if you at least do it earlier, I think you're dealing with lesser amount of inequality. And hence, I think it's very important. 2, I think that when you actually identify a gifted child young and equip the child with the set of tools to navigate what their curiosity is and navigate what their interest is, over a period of time, they will be on their own. They don't require too much. You don't have to handhold them till the end. They are not like children with learning difficulty. These children are children who can manage things on their own. They just require some nudging, some direction, they will manage it. And they will learn the art of managing it. So I think it's important that we have programs to identify them. India is extremely diverse. We cannot use methods of identification used in the West. And that's why when we started off this project, we said, let us build a set of identification tools to identify gifted children within the Indian context. And you have to provide them constant, periodic nurturing. You cannot do a one-time nurturing, doesn't help. The strategies used by several schools are magnet schools. They take off these children and put them in separate schools so that they are educated together. That you have among some of the countries. Some of the countries have acceleration and enrichment program. Some schools actually put them in separate sections, and you think that they are challenged. But I think research across the board tells you that you should allow them to be part of their normal group. So I think what we propagate for the country is give them opportunities to be among the gifted, either through summer courses, winter courses, weekend classes, or ways in which they can do, but otherwise they should be part of their own peer group. Because I think creating an artificial environment will not allow the child to cope back when the child comes back to the actual world. In India, according to 2011 census, you have about 330.3 million children in the age group 6 to 18. I've taken 6 to 18 because it's the school age of 6, and +2 is also now getting into the school system. So if you're looking at that, the top 3% is about 9.9 million children. 9.9 million children in this country that is still debating whether they want a gifted education program. The numbers are so large. So today, if I say the top 3%, and if you actually reach out to the children, we may be having resources for certain kind of mentoring support for only the top 1%. So it depends on how much of resources. If we are a country that has a lot of resources, then they would cater to the top 10%. So this 3% is not sacrosanct. You're only saying people who are at the high end, and the normal schools don't give them an opportunity, you're trying to give them an opportunity. So among them, just to bring to your attention, there are 7.2 million gifted who are in rural areas. Be sure that a very minuscule number of them would have been even identified. I'm not saying the urban schools, they are done. But in the rural schools, their chances are even rarer. And 4.7 million are gifted girls. We live in a society that still is struggling for gender equality. And in that kind of a society, to give attention to the gifted girls is even more difficult. So you're talking of numbers of this kind. And I think one needs to say that we have no time to wait. All countries have gone ahead. And if India is still contemplating to do this, we are losers. We are already not in the same line in terms of the race. And the greater we delay, I think the greater we are going to lose as a country. So what are the talent search initiatives we have in India? You have the Jawaharlal Navodaya Vidyalaya, which was established in rural areas for the bright children from the 5th standard, which is residential. You have the Kishore Vaigyanik Protsaha Yojana. I don't know how many of us are aware of it, which is run by the Indian Institute of Science, where students, I think, in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th take these exams. And if they qualify, they get a scholarship. And if they pursue their degree in science or maths, they have a certain amount that will take care of their education completely. So that you have. You have the National Talent Search Exams, which many of us know. We as teachers nominate children. Whom do we nominate? We nominate the academically bright children. How are these tests conducted? We have questions, whether they are really conducted in terms of measuring the ability of the children, or are they all very book-oriented? And then you have the Olympiads and you have the Inspire program. The Inspire program has become extremely popular, where they're trying to sort of identify these children very young and trying to see if they'll give them opportunities. But all these programs have certain problems, which I think we should be aware of. One is you have a single point entry. For a gifted child, I can tell for sure, if it's not the child's day, the child will not do it. If it's a day that a child won't, that means the child misses the bus. The child cannot then get into the bus, which is a huge problem. We use quantitative measures because we are talking of numbers. And even now, the method that we use for identification, constantly the government is asking, no, you're using qualitative measures, there will be bias. I said, you have to use qualitative measures because you're talking of children who are so very different. I cannot quantify it. We don't have a research base to quantify it. We may be able to do it after we do about 10 or 20 years of research to put it in quantitative terms. Qualitative measurements have their own strengths. So that is an issue. They're largely based on academic success. So they are all very academically oriented, and they're restricted to older children. And if you look at what the kind of mentoring they have, you give them scholarships. Just by giving them an amount, you think you're providing them mentoring. It is so foolish. You just give them amount. What will they do with that amount? Or what you do is you have annual competition. Is that enough? You also have a one-time or limited mentoring. In Olympiads, then, because they coach you for the next levels of Olympiads, you have these coaching camps that you have, which is 1 month or 2 months. So the question is, once you outgrow that, how do you have mentoring support? And the numbers here you're dealing with is also very, very small. They're not even the top 3%. You're talking of something like 9.9 million. The numbers they're dealing with are almost in hundreds. The NIAS identification process, we use a teacher's nomination behavioral rating scale. This scale was developed after 750 hours of classroom observations, and we had about 81 items. We had discussions, we standardized it, brought down to 24 items, and these items basically say what these traits are that these children show, and we asked the teacher to mark them on a scale of 5. And we use that as the first level of screening. For many reasons, these gifted children can be very unpopular. And so the teachers may not nominate them. So we have a provision for the parents to nominate. But the moment we open it up to parents, then all of us as parents think our children are gifted. None of us sitting in this room think our children are not capable. So that's a huge problem. So if I have like thousands of nominations pouring in, I don't know how to deal with it. The staff, the team is extremely small. So what we do is we do a case profiling over telephone and then sort of assess whether we should bring them to the next level of mentoring. I also sort of